How's this for a shot? It's pretty laid back. So the internet's kind of like a public space. It's a place where usually free ideas are allowed to roam free and groups of people can kind of find what they're interested in and find a community that they want to be a part of. The cool thing about it is that it's not limited to where you are physically in the world. Not much. One thing that I find interesting is you can kind of find these topics that you otherwise would have never known about. I also think being able to be anonymous on the internet really let people open themselves up and to kind of really think more and to be more open about it and about how they feel about things. Maybe that's good. In some ways, that's good. In some ways, it's bad, clearly. I still think it's interesting because we've gotten to a point where everything is so public, yet people are very personal with a lot of things that they hold dear. There's so many like different communities online, and it's doesn't matter how niche something is, you can find a group that you belong to. There's this word called anemoia. It's a word used to describe an emotion that is felt when you have nostalgia for a time or a place that you've never been to. I'm gonna put an image on the screen right now, and I'm gonna like let it sit there for like 10 seconds, really get a good look at it, and try to understand what you feel when you're looking at it. Just you probably feel some kind of weird emotion, you know? I'm sure there's a lot of people that will say, "No, I don't feel anything." But a lot of people, if they're honest with themselves, will say that they get some kind of weird feeling. At least most people on the internet do. I'm one of those people, and that photo is of a phenomenon called liminal space. And it was a thing that was really big, especially I think during COVID. It blew up. It was something that people kind of saw that they all shared the same kind of feeling towards one thing, which was like these photos of places that usually are filled with a ton of people, and but there are no people in the photo. But it doesn't stop there. It's more of like it's like a threshold, right? The word liminal comes from a threshold or like a place in between two places that you want to be. It's like an area that's like it's like a area that you use to get from one place to another, and it's not paid a lot of attention to. And I think when you have no people in that area and you're kind of like focusing on it, it gives you an odd feeling because it's something you're paying attention to that you almost never did. It kind of segues more into what I wanted the topic to be about, which is kind of emotions and feelings that aren't named, that you don't have the right words to describe, that aren't just like, I'm mad or I'm sad or I'm happy. Even more complicated feelings like nostalgia. Nostalgia can break off into a million different ways. Like, are you nostalgic for something in a happy way? Are you nostalgic for it in a sad way? Are you both? Like it can be a very complicated thing. So one thing interesting about liminal spaces again is that it's hard to describe what you feel. And I think people are getting to a point where they can kind of put the words together and relate how they feel to like different emotions to try and get people to understand. It's just one thing that I kind of find kind of interesting, that sometimes we look at things and we feel something. Even, you know, you might be seeing a liminal space photo for the first time and you can just be like, "Oh yeah, it's like kind of creepy." But it's not the same because there's no threat, you know? It could just be like a regular kind of just room. It could be like a living room from like the 90s. Okay, you feel kind of nostalgic about it, but why do you feel scared? Like there's nothing wrong in the photo. It's not like overtly dark. There's nothing really wrong with it, but still you feel that kind of sense. And some people don't feel like that. They feel more, comforted. They feel like, oh, there's not like a million people there, like if they're an introvert and maybe they feel comforted and they feel like they like it because they feel like they can get away from people. They're not around so many people and or anyone, I guess, in those photos. And it's like kind of a quiet, calm place where they don't have to worry about people. And I think that's kind of interesting because you can almost look and see who someone is as a person just from the way they can react from a photo. So, say someone who's more extroverted and really likes to be around people and gets their energy from being around people, they're going to be more prone to hating the photo and just like maybe they feel negatively towards it. Introverts probably, find it more comforting and more appealing to themselves just because, of the opposite reasons. I feel like I'm a pretty extroverted person, but I, for some reason, think that these photos are more kind of comforting because I'm a very sentimental person and I kind of tack value to things that are just valuable to me because I'm not so concerned with kind of the value that other people put on something that you enjoy. Say it's like, you know, you went somewhere with someone that you love very much and, you're walking and even something as stupid as like picking up a rock that's like on the path of a trail that you're walking. It's like you attach that memory to that object and it gives it value to you, not anybody else in the world. It's just a rock, but it's something that's valuable to you, which to me is more valuable than something that's as stupid as like money, right? Because you can go and buy like a car, and sure, it's valuable, but there are a million other ones just like it. But it won't be the same as something that's sentimental. I think at the end of the day, what you kind of find more valuable in your life is going to be really telling of who you are as a person. Just like sentimental things or actual, you could say actual value, but when you say actual value, it just means value that is valuable to somebody else. And I think like nowadays, being sentimental is like kind of unusual. Not a lot of people are into it just because like the world is so focused on money and gaining wealth and stuff like that that you kind of see that things are turning to this like soulless, let's just say like newer decor in houses. I'm kind of like a hypocrite, I guess, because like if you look around my house, everything's like white. It's very sterile, but this house is very very old and it's got creaky bones and stuff like that. It feels like it's got a soul when you walk into it, I think. And I just think the modern like design of things is kind of starting to reflect more into less about craftsmanship, less about artistic, something that someone put passion behind, where there's like a human behind it. And now everything's just kind of like square and white and black and gray and just very like soulless, like it was just put there, and it's only there to serve its function. There's no artistry to it. I remember reading a quote that people are just like, every single person you pass on the street is their own main character in their story of their life that they're living, and they have all the struggles that you have. Some people might have more struggles, but they have all the same thoughts and stuff like that, and it's kind of like crazy to think about that everybody kind of in their own head. I don't want I guess a lack of a better word is to say that they're their own main character. I know that's kind of like a narcissistic thing that people do nowadays where they're like the main character, but of their own story, right? You're living your life from your own point of view, and that's how you live through your life. And it's crazy to think that every person has their own unique perspective on something. And I think that the things that you have that are already your own and that you've attached sentiment to really carry a lot of value that maybe a lot of people don't recognize because they're so worried about making people around them happy. So getting back to, feelings and emotion, those photos of like liminal space, it gives you a feeling that you most certainly feel but can't describe fully. Feeling and emotions are something that fascinates me because it's something that's so human, so real and personal, but it isn't something that you can see, touch, hear, smell, or even describe. You just know that it's there. You feel it, or you have a feeling. I just think that's bizarre. I can see that I'm like touching my hand. I can smell, the air in the room. I can see outside and see the trees. I can describe it to a way that we can all relate to. But feelings are something that's so bizarre because it's almost like in your brain. Like nothing really changes on the outside world that really people can like really see what you're feeling, like truly feeling. And it's almost like you know what I'm talking about, but not for sure. It's something that's so personal, so only you feel something. And people can go to a movie, a scary movie, and both get scared, but they're scared in their own different ways. They feel differences from like the small ways that they feel things. And I just think that's like something that's so crazy is that like people always try to replicate a feeling that they've had when they were younger. A lot of these guys will like have a certain car when they're younger, right? And they'll have, the time of their life, some of the best years of their life and memories are made in that car. And say it was in the 60s that they had that car, or the 70s. And over a period of time, those cars get old and they get scratched and all that. And when they're already older and they can kind of do what they want with their money, um, I've seen a lot of examples of guys going and buying that same car that they had when they were younger and just completely restoring it to just get it back to that perfect state that it was in, the exact same state, 50, 60 years ago when they were younger, just to get that same feeling back. And one thing that's kind of sad but good at the same time is that it will never be the same. Feelings go, feelings, they come and go, and they are fleeting. Um, every day has a unique feeling to it. You can have the same routine every single day, but it's not going to always feel the same. I'm saying that word a lot because I'm trying to emphasize it. And there's no other word to really describe it. Um, but you can have the same routine. You get up in the morning, you take a shower, get ready for work, you go to work. And the same thing, you can work the same job through the same day and kind of see the same people, but it's not going to feel the same. It's always changing. And I think that adds value to living in the moment and enjoying what you feel at this present time. Because it's almost like in the future, you're going to look back at the time you're living in now and you're just going to be like, man, that was the time. And that's good. That's the beauty to life, is that it's always changing. There's always something new that you can see and something new that you can do. Um, it adds value. It adds an air of preciousness to the feelings that you had when you were younger, or the feelings you had playing a certain game, driving a certain car, um, being with certain people. But that doesn't mean that there's no good ones ahead of you. And I think sometimes, like, those people that restore that car that they had when they were younger, they kind of don't understand that there are new feelings that are going to come into your life that are so much better, or not even better, but different. And it's still something that's wonderful because you can just enjoy a thing that's new. You don't always have to live in the past and just chase that one type of feeling because there's could be another one that's so much better, so much more pure. It's like a thing you should look ahead and look forward to because it's the beauty of life. And you know, I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm 14 and I'm so smart or whatever, like that subreddit, but I think that that's something that a lot of people don't understand nowadays. There's you should be positive and happy that those feelings you had them and look back at them, but not always just chase that same one because it's never going to come back. It's a unique thing. It's tied to a unique time in your life that will never happen again. And I know that sounds kind of sad, but you shouldn't look at it that way. So, words like Anamoya, the word I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they kind of only scratch the surface of like new feelings and new emotions that we have. Um, there's different words, kind of, it's kind of like, a new internet archive of like words, and there are so many like specific ones that you can look up. Um, and like if you just look up Anamoya, it will branch off to like different words that you can look up and like see like, oh, that's a word for when I feel like, happy, but I'm also kind of sad about one thing, or, whatever. One avenue I think people have been taking to try to like get people to understand how they feel is, art. I know a lot of art, and a lot of new art, like modern art, is absolutely garbage. And you'd be right about most of it, or a lot of it. But hear me out. There are a lot of artists, in my opinion, that truly are doing what their purpose for art is, which is trying to convey an emotion, trying to get an emotion out of you, a feeling out of you that isn't really described. Back in the day, art was used for, depicting real life, kind of like a snapshot of a situation, or of like people in a room and stuff like that, or a portrait that's like hyper realistic. And that takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of technique, and they're much different than the kind of art that we have today. Art in the modern sense, to me, is a lot more about conveying emotion, and it's more about a communication with the viewer. And of course, there are shills out there, people who are trying to launder money and trying to make a quick buck, $1 million off of some garbage. But there are artists out there that actually want to make art for the sake of art. That's the kind of people that I would want to talk about. One artist who a lot of people joke about as being like lazy because he kind of had a unique way of making his art was Andy Warhol. Um he made a lot of like screen prints where he could just kind of like pump out a lot of art within a short amount of time because he was just printing it basically. And I think that's funny because his studio was called The Factory, so it kind of does make sense. Was really into like American consumerism, clearly. Um, he showed that into like his art. And one thing that I find interesting, especially about like his Campbell's soup can, prints, I went to the MoMA and I, saw him in person. I think, a lot of people will think that's like stupid and stuff like that, but I think it's interesting because when he was a kid, his mom obviously made him for that because he grew up in like the boom of this like super processed like American goods. And his mom made him Campbell's soup, as he states in the interviews and stuff. But I think that maybe what he's trying to convey was like a feeling that he had, that maybe when he was a kid, he had like the comfort of that, and maybe he gets that feeling when he's looking at those paintings of this soup can, as stupid as it sounds. But I do truly think that he was trying to convey like how he felt in a way, because he was clearly passionate about like these kind of things. And it's kind of like crazy to think about it as an inward look into, how somebody actually feels. That's why I find art fascinating, not in the sense of like how much is this painting worth, or like who painted this. I think it's when people truly want to convey how they feel, and the only way they can describe is kind of like throwing their brain out onto a canvas in a way. Doesn't have to be a canvas, could be a different, a sculpture or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. um I just think that it's something that can be explored upon a little more than people are willing to, give it the light of day. But it's something that I find fascinating because since I was young, like I always found that I have different like feelings during different seasons, different times of the day, or wherever, whatever I'm doing. And I always was in this stuck loop of trying to replicate the way that I felt, say, earlier in my life, or at a different time, or at a different place that I found dear to me. But it's I've came to the conclusion that I can't just keep chasing that same thing. I can't just keep chasing the same feeling over and over because I'm never going to catch it. It's something that's always fleeting. And it made me look forward to, like I said, the new feelings that were coming. I say new feelings like you're catching feelings for someone. I mean the new feelings in the way of like how you feel. I don't know. Andy Warhol's work is debatable whether it was to make money or used to express how he feels. Obviously, he did make a lot of money off of it. He supported all his friends with it and stuff like that, so that's out of the question. But I still do truly feel that he was trying to convey an emotion. It feels that there's a uniqueness, Obviously people say, "Oh, I could have done that." Well, you didn't. There's so many people that say, "Oh, I could have done this, I could have done that," but you didn't. He was the first person to have the vision to like do the thing that he wanted to do, and I feel that he genuinely put it out there and was trying to convey an emotion. And for me, it works. I love his art, and I feel like he kind of gets something about this like this weird kind of hominess and coziness that you get from this American consumerism. It's something that's so like safe in a weird way. If you just like sit down and look around your house or go outside and look at something that's man-made, and just look at the things that aren't purely made for function, say like um I don't know, a cutting board. But even when people make cutting boards, they make a cutting board and they make it in different patterns, or they make it out of a certain material and they add a color to the material. That's all kind of like, it's got an air for it to not just be for function. Like it still has a thing that like makes it look good. I think cars is something that's interesting because I'm very passionate about cars, obviously. I'm a mechanic, and car design is something that people takes for granted so much because they think like, okay, if a car is two doors, it's gonna look similar. But if you look at a Japanese two-door car, like say a Nissan Skyline, or a German two-door car like my E36, they look very different. All right, I think my microphone's dying, so I'm gonna try and finish up quick. But like I was talking about those cars, there's so many different design elements, like how the body line is supposed to go, the way the headlights are shaped, the colors that they choose, and how they structure the lights that people kind of take for granted. And it's something that is supposed to kind of convey a different feeling. It's supposed to show you the different, like, it's not supposed to show you anything. It just kind of is trying to make you feel a certain way about the car. I just think that's something that is, it's cool. So my microphone died, so the audio is going to be a little different now, but I think it'll be fine. Um, like I was saying, the feelings and stuff that you have is very personal. It's something that only you feel, and only that you know, basically. Um, One video that I think is really important to kind of convey this message is a video that, Vsauce, he made a video called "Is My Red the Same as Your Red?" If you want to go down this rabbit hole of how, feelings and how personal this thing is, and how only you can kind of know what you see and know what you feel, and that's it. Nobody else can actually like know that the way that you see green is the way that they see green. It's hard to kind of explain in this short time that I'm trying to keep this in, but he does a great job of explaining it. And if you want to give it a shot, I highly recommend watching it. In the same
vein of that, of another video that kind of explains that, is a YouTuber. His name is Solar Sands. He made a video called Everything is TV. And that video is kind of crazy how he kind of like sees into how I felt about some things and like says it in a perfect way. He's like a really big thinker, and I think if you want to give him a shot, you definitely should. I mean, his videos are incredible. They're very human. He's very honest and open when he talks, and I just think he's like someone that's super underrated. And I say that, but he has like millions of subscribers, but he's got some crazy videos. Crazy in a good way. That's pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to make this video because I've had thoughts like this about, feelings and how different feelings or how you feel about something is completely unique. The way you feel right now, almost nobody, or I can almost guarantee that nobody else feels like that. And it's hard to describe even what I'm talking about, just because of how personal it is. I think in the video that Vsauce made about, the different colors, like, do you see the red? Is my red the same as your red? Even something as trivial as the way a color is perceived, we can't know for sure that it's the same. But with feelings that are so complex that you yourself don't even actually know what it means, it's kind of crazy to think that other people could feel the same way as you. And I think that's how people get so drawn to like a certain piece of art, because it's almost like someone displays something and the person that's obsessed with that one piece of art that didn't make it, they're just like, yeah, I get it. Like, I get what you mean, without saying words. I think that's where the beauty lies in some modern art to me, because it's not just about how many hours someone put in. It's not just about how realistic something is. It's like trying to convey how you feel up here, not just how something looks in real life that everybody else can see, but how you see it. One more example. Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Such an iconic painting. Everybody knows Starry Night. And is it realistic? Not at all. Is it something that's interesting because he painted it before he took his life, or something that's interesting because he painted it from the window of the insane asylum he was in, or mental asylum, or whatever you want to call it? Yeah, but a lot of people love that painting because he painted what he saw, not what is in the world, but what he saw. And maybe some people can compare to that. I know this video is kind of different, and it's kind of a lot of rambling. It's kind of a lot of back and forth between different topics. But it's something that I wanted to make. I feel like I needed to say what I had to say. I think that's the very interesting part of our lives that is often overlooked, that people don't really think about. It's so fast paced that you kind of don't just sit and think about how you feel. And trust me, I get it. My days are busy too. But I mean, if you like the video, leave a like, I guess. If you want me to talk more about these kind of things, let me know. I definitely can yap a lot. Especially about something like this that I'm really passionate about. And it's something that I've been trying to even dissect in my own mind how to understand for a long time. So, I mean, I had a fun time making this, and I hope that you enjoyed it.